It's Lisa from Been There, Got Out. And today's guest I just met recently, but she's definitely one of ours. She's originally from New York, even though she's in the Midwest now. And she's a parenting coach. Here she is. Oh, all right. So there you are, Sue. Let me get you on here. Parenting and how to get your kids to listen without having to scream. Um, oh, can you see me, Sue? I can't see you.
Oh, yes, I
Okay,
can.
as long as you can see me, let's just keep going because sometimes Instagram does this. But anyway, so when before you introduce yourself, Sue, one of the things we talked about when we first met was how parents diagnose their own kids with an issue and that's a kid who's misbehaving. Why is that a problem?
Well, if they are misdiagnosing, that means that they're not really watching what they. I kind of coach from a position of leadership, right? So if there's a misdiagnosis, you have to go. I teach parents to kind of go into their instincts and their own internal gut and figure out what they think is going on with the child, so that they can make their own decisions rather than just looking at a diagnosis that they might think doesn't represent the situation.
Okay. And now can you officially like introduce who you are and what you do?
Yes, I am a multi-entrepreneur, mom of four, a wife, um, uh, an author, and a parenting coach.
All right. Now, one of the things I know you're dealing with this community of people who are in the middle of very difficult divorces, separations, custody battles, and then the thereafter, the co-parenting. And so there's still a lot of stress. And often we see kids reacting and getting sometimes aggressive. And parents often say, my kid needs to be fixed. But you and I were talking about like this victim mentality that sometimes people get. Can you talk about that? Like, how victimization is not really helpful.
Well, there's a thing that I like to talk about, the glorification of victimization, right?
Right.
We tend to label ourselves, we limit ourselves, we think that, woe is us, that, things are happening to us, and we forget to sort of back it up and think preemptively and think from a leadership position and think that I do have control. I have a choice to um, look at the situation differently. I have a choice to see what my perspective is and how I can change that and how I can sort of take my autonomy back. And for kids, I think it's super um it's not good to be able to tell your kids that they have a label on them and that they are then going to grow up to meet that label, right? So I don't think that I think it's important to not be able to tell children that they're labeled by any type of diagnoses. That's what they then grow up to become, as opposed to allowing them to sort of get with inside their gut, figure out um, what their real purpose and value is. And that's our job as parents, to help them discover that, as opposed to labeling them or diagnosing them with something that doesn't fit the moment.
Yeah, I recently learned something called the drama triangle, which is almost like where you see people as the victim, the hero, and the perpetrator. And a therapist was saying sometimes we make it so that our children our children are the heroes or our children are the perpetrators. And it reminded me of what we were just talking about, where you don't want to just have people in these boxes of like, I'm all good and you're all bad, right?
Oh, yeah, no, again, that's the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So when we're allowing our children to wear any type of label or any type of hat, that affects their behavior as well. So as parents, we need to be able to, back that up and invest in them as individuals, invest in their own instincts, and invest in going inside and understanding where that behavior is coming from, and how can we sidestep those power struggles? How can we redirect so that the child is not feeling like they're that victim?
Yeah. So we talked about accountability and why is it so important for parents to take accountability?
Well, it starts with the parent, right? So whenever I'm dealing with parents that have behavior issues with the kids, the first thing that we do is we talk about goals, but then we also put the mirror on ourselves and understand, what are we bringing to the table? What type of trauma, what type of past experiences were we yelled at? Were we punished? How do we take stock of what we're bringing to that relationship? And when I wrote my book, the first part of the book is about your relationship with yourself, which is important because is it ego? Are we bringing our ego in? Are we making decisions for our kids to make ourselves feel better? Or are we really investing in them as an individual? Are we really being curious and listening to them as to what's important to them? Guilt is also an important aspect. Another chapter is about, are you for sale? What do you stand for? That is such an important feature of parenting. That what do I stand for in terms of my for sale on my rules, on my expectations? Am I looking at what my child's friends' parents are doing and relaxing my rules and my boundaries? And so that's what's really important, is the accountability of the parent first. And from that position of strength and leadership, we can then have those expectations of our child.
Okay, so one of the things that we also talked about when we first met before this was how sometimes a child's behavior could be a reflection of our own parenting. I can feel people getting triggered by that. Like, well, if my kid's really aggressive, are you saying that there's something wrong with me? Like, what should someone think if their child is really aggressive and things have gotten out of control, and what can they do about it?
Well, we have to ask ourselves what kind of environment, what type of patterns are going on, what is prompting the behavior. I have a method called parenting in advance, where we back up the moment of what we're getting, the behavior that we're getting. What triggered that? Is it my stress? Am I staying up too late? What am I bringing to the table? Because one of the things that is counterintuitive with parenting is asking, we're thinking that we're reacting to the child when we're yelling, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately the child is reacting to us. So when we take a look in the mirror and we understand what we're saying, how we're saying it, are we providing consistency for the child? That's another thing that is very disruptive. That when you're moving the children back and forth to different homes, they're packing up a suitcase, what are you doing to sort of mitigate that upheaval in their life, which is affecting their confidence, which affecting their safety? So I'm not blaming a parent, but I am saying that there's two people in that partnership. And as the adult, it is on us to, again, I keep coming back to leadership, to ask ourselves, what are we bringing to the relationship that might be causing that behavior from the child? And I think that we're remiss if we don't understand that the upheaval from our divorce or from splitting up or any of that type of stuff is going to be having an effect on the child. And the behavior is a symptom of that. And it's a reflection of our environment that we're creating and that we're responsible for changing.
All right. So something that's come up like at least twice in the past week with a couple of different clients are kids that are on a device and the parent can't get the device away, and they feel like the kid is kind of running the show in the house. And in some cases, it's dangerous to try to physically remove the phone from the child. Like, what advice would you have to a parent in a situation like that where things have gotten out of control and the kid is kind of saying, well, I'm going to do what I want?
Again, that's a leadership thing. Who's paying for the phone? Who provided the phone? Was the phone provided tied to a need and a safety, or was it tied for their entertainment? How was the phone presented? What is
Well,
the
I'm
age of?
thinking in both these cases, it's the other parent paid for the phone,
Mhm.
and the child, but the rules are different in different people's houses, and so the phone really should be put aside. It's not a safety issue. It's not something that they need,
Okay.
but the kid is like, well, my other parent said it's okay,
That,
even though it's your home, and I'm not going to give it up.
okay, easy. So when your child is in your home, you are the curator of the culture of that home. So it's your culture. And again, when I work with parents, it's a lot about self-empowerment, about sometimes they are so lost in the moment that they forget that they can make decisions, and follow through on boundaries and rules. Okay, because they're just so stressed. So in the home, you are the owner of the culture of your home. Therefore, it is okay to say that you have different rules in the home. What I would do is I would ask the parent, are you on your phone all the time? What are you role modeling? Number one. Number two, if a child is addicted to anything, whether it's a phone, entertainment, social media, um, gaming, whatever it is, my challenge to the parent is, and I work with parents a lot on this, is to invest in the child as an individual. So we were big about raising our kids to find where you add value in the world. When a child is relying on external devices and external inputs, they are not spending any time wallowing in their own thoughts, using their own creativity, solving their own problems, and just being.
Mm-hmm.
So the owner of the culture of the home, when I have that child, it's okay for me to say to this child, we're going outside, we're going to go do some gymnastics, we're going to do, whatever it is, we're investing in that child depending on the age. When you put an investment into a child where they can find their value, and at every age it's something different. Like in the early years, my daughter wanted to be a vet. Okay, so we're going to hang her hat on being a vet. Then she decided she wanted to go and be a lawyer. Whatever it is, listen and be curious to your child and ask them how they feel about things, and then spend time together connecting while you're investing in them as an individual and to where they're going to create a skill where they can add value in the future.
Okay.
So get outside that moment and invest in them, but you can't also be on your phone and then make demands.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like very surly, angry teenagers who say, I'm not going outside. I'm not listening. Is there anything that people can do either in the moment or something ahead of time to possibly change the behavior?
Yes, it's about relationships and it's about connection. I will typically ask a parent in that situation, are you spending time talking with your kids, asking their opinions, making them feel like their opinion is valuable? How are you structuring your home right now? Any addiction isn't going to happen overnight. So there is no quick answer I can give
Yeah.
that's going to turn it in a day. But what I can do is empower you to know that you can make these decisions in your home and stick by them. And it's not going to be pretty, right? Every time, if you want to make any change in your life, whether it's losing weight, it has to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It does hurt. It hurts for them, it hurts for you. But if not you, then who? So if you're not taking ownership of the power that you have to connect with your child, and get to know them and be curious and go and have them decide how to spend that time together. What's your favorite movie? What do you want to go do some VR playing it? What's your child into? And then show them how they matter by spending that time with them one-on-one. Even at the teenage years, when they're angry, deep down they're looking for that validation from you, because that as children get older, this is why there's so much therapy going on, because we're trying to undo what our parents, either whatever unmet needs our parents didn't meet us at or they didn't fulfill. So it's never too late. It's never too late. You're going to have to go through the pain, you're going to have to go through the anger, you're going to have to celebrate the tiniest little win. That any kind of connection you can make with your child is going to be a win, and celebrate that and show them that you're there for them, to learn about them, and that you're not projecting all of your adult ideas onto them. You're there to be curious and to listen and to ask questions.
All right. What do you think? We have a comment about being a peer support advocate of substance dependency. What about enlisting like other of the kids' peers? Is that ever helpful to like involve friends of theirs to do things where you take them and a friend somewhere or involve a friend in these activities too? Or is it something that you should really focus on just one-to-one with your child?
One to one. That's my opinion. In raising our own four, I was underwhelmed by how the kids' friends and their parents were raising their kids. So again,
Mm-hmm.
of the culture of my home, you have a very limited time with that child.
Mm.
So they're 18 and they're leaving. You've got very limited time to make that connection. I also talk a lot about how to help your kids make good decisions. And I think that's something a lot of parenting coaches, books, whatever, don't talk about.
Well, let's
How do I enjoy?
hear it. That's important.
Yeah, well, good decision making is super important. And I have a chapter in the book about the wisdom continuum. But how can I, as an adult, make share my wisdom and inject that into my kids. And I can only do that through connection and through trust. So if you've got teenagers who are belligerent, violent, ignoring you, that trust has not been created. That is a child reacting to you. And again, we have to take ownership of that first, because then when we go to the child and say, hey, I know that this has been tough. I know that, there's a lot of pressure on you, a little bit of validation. I'd like to go spend some time with you. What child isn't going to want to spend that time with their parent? But yes, helping kids make decisions, injecting your wisdom into them, because again, if not you, then who? So I never looked outside for the friends and the friends' parents, because quite honestly, they just weren't adding the value to those relationships that I know that my husband and I were with ours.
Yeah, yeah. And you didn't mention, Sue, your situation with your 4 kids.
Yeah. Well, we had our first, and then on our second pregnancy ended up with triplets, natural triplets. So went from 1 to 4 kids overnight. So I was just kind of thrown into the deep end of parenting and, yelling all the time and whatever. I had a lot to learn, which is why I'm in a fun position now to share and spend time with other parents and help them go through what I learned so that they don't have to do it.
Yeah, and I know part of your triplets are a set of identical twins. I told you my dad's an identical twin, and I was always terrified to have twins, so I can't imagine like 3 plus another one all at once. Were there things that you did like when the kids were really little that you felt helped establish that connection? I know with my dad, like we used to just take walks all the time. We used to walk down the hill to get the paper, and then he'd always like give me some change, and I'd get something from the vending machine. So we really bonded over those weekend walks.
That's awesome. Those are things that the kids really do cling to in the future. With the 4, I did have, because I ran my own business from home back before that was popular. I did have a girl come in and help me with the kids at home. So she would work, 10 to 3 or whatever, to kind of help me just be able to have a complete thought, in my office. And then was there, I did make it a point to take each child on a date, which meant either I would take a child to lunch, or I would take them to the store and they would be with mom one on one. Back in the day when kids loved to go on errands with you, and then they wake up that and you're like, oh God, mom, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
But early, I did sort of take advantage of that time that they really liked spending with me one on one. And so I did make very intentional choices for them to spend time with me one on one, listen, learn, and then that trust just carries on in the future as the stakes become higher and the phases become different with each child, and especially with the triplets, because it was easy to say we have our oldest and then the triplets are just a group. I
Mhm.
did intentional effort to invest in each one individually. And and we did and again, we really built in that whole, where are you adding value? So anything they were interested in, we celebrated and made it a thing. And that's where you build that connection and trust.
Yeah. Well, I know we have to end soon, so we're a little bit abbreviated, but can you tell people how to find you and your book?
Yeah, sure. So Secrets to Parenting Without Giving a Fuck is on Amazon. And also Ask Mom Parenting on my website, Instagram, Facebook.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sue, and I'm glad we got to talk even just for a little bit.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun, and I hope we get to do it
Yes,
again.
for sure. All right.
Okay,
Take care.
thank
Bye.
you. Bye.